One more time. It's Convos with Kerry, Thursday evenings, 8:30. Try again, Fiana. Let's see if it's going to work. And tonight we have on as our special guest. I'm going to put this as pin. Hi, Ann Boutique. Thanks for coming back. Hopefully this works. I'm not sure why. Oh, I hear some kind of ringing. Okay. Oh,
Working now.
it's working. I can't see. Oh. Yay. It's working.
Yes.
Okay, great. How are you today?
Not too bad. Been a
Okay,
long day, but I'm okay.
you're here. We're ready for you. So let's get started.
Yes.
Just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, and be with your introduction, not about your business, but about you. One interesting fact about you that somebody may not know, or people may not know after your introduction. So you have time to think about it.
All right. So I'm Fiana Andrews, psychologist. Work part-time for Pew District School Board, part-time for Embrace Well. An interesting fact about me, I used to play trumpet.
Ooh, how long?
For a few years, I was not bad at it, but asked me to play again now. I'm not sure if I can, but I'm pretty sure I know at least the skill.
Okay. See, that's interesting. So thank you. And you gave us a little bit about you. So tell me a little bit about you. Like I know you said you're a psychotherapist, but give me something about you that somebody
Um, Say it
not
again.
about your business, about you, not about your business.
Okay, so me, I'm married. I'm a stepmom.
Ooh. What
And my
age?
she is 13.
Nice. Teenagers?
Yes. Actually, she's 14. Sorry, she just turned 14.
Oh, mine too, just turned 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else? I like to watch reality TV shows.
Really too.
Right now, I'm watching Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Great, nice. Thank you. Thank you. Because sometimes we just go into, our business and what we do, but we forget about us. And, we are the business. So we have to remember that we exist outside of it.
That's
Um,
true.
so I actually watched what was the document? I'm a big documentary fan. It was about, I think it's called uh, it's about the kids that there was a mom that was putting the kids on social media on YouTube and like abusing them,
Oh,
not
wow.
her kid, like her kid and other people's kids.
Yeah.
So I watched that one. It was a documentary. I can't remember the name, but it was a good one. I just watched that one last night. So I was like arguing through the phone. Those are always good documentaries when I'm having a conversation with the TV.
I like documentaries too.
But
And
okay,
based
so
on true story movies, I love
yes,
those.
I love those. I love
Yeah.
those. I'm a big documentary kind of person. So give me a good documentary and I'll watch them all night. So okay, so we'll get started. You are again, say your name and your business.
Fiana Andrews. I'm a psychologist, and my business is Embrace Well Psychological Services.
Thank you. So first question is, what inspired you to specialize in psychoeducational testing and psychological testing?
Well, I kind of fell into it. Originally, my intention when I was graduating out of high school was to become a social worker. But then the undergrad that I did was behavioral science, which introduced me to psychology, and I ended up liking psychology better. So I went down the route of school psychology, and school psychology focuses a lot on the testing and psychoeducational testing, especially. So I ended up in school psychology mainly because when I was trying to get into school and clinical over here in Toronto, I didn't get in. So I applied to a private school in the States and focused on school psychology. And that's how I got into psychoeducational testing and psychological testing.
Okay. And how many years have you been doing that?
Since 2008. I've been mainly focusing on psychoeducational assessments because I was working for the Peel District School Board for over 15 years. But the last maybe 4 years since COVID, actually, I started to branch out with more psychological assessments as well because I was expanding my area of practice. So originally, when I got registered with the College of Psychologists of Ontario, I registered as a school psychologist, and my population was children and adolescents. And as a school psychologist, you're restricted to like psychoeducational assessments and usually within a school board. And then I decided I wanted to work with adults as well. So, in order to do that, I had to apply with the college. And with that, they suggested I added some courses. So I had to take some courses. I had to be supervised. And with the supervision, I was taught to do psychological assessments and also work with adults. So now, for the last 4 years, I've been adding that piece to my portfolio.
Okay. So the psychoeducational, why did the school boards, like when you're doing that with the school boards, why do they you can't do it outside of the school board? Like why can't you do it
Oh,
as
you can. I was just saying that mainly you're usually working in a school board, but you can work outside of a school board.
Okay, because when I was looking for another client, and when I was looking for another client to get them a psychoeducational outside of the school board, I called a few psychotherapists, and they're like, oh, because the child is not in their school district that they work with, they're not allowed to do it, even though they do it on their side business.
Okay, so if for me too, I have a restriction as well. So because I work part-time for the Peel District School Board, I cannot test any children who attend that school board in my private practice. And the reason is because there's a conflict of interest. So I can't take the school board clients as an employee of the school board and take them away from that establishment to bring them over to my practice.
Well, my concern with that is, do you know how long the waiting list is to see a psychotherapist as to get a psychoeducational assessment within the school board? So if the parent is like, it's taking too long, I would like it done sooner, I'm actually going to fork out my own money to do it, why would the school board hinder that? Do
Because
you,
there's other psychologists that can do it. So as long as they're not working at the same school board, they could do it. So for me, I could assess somebody who's at the Toronto District School Board or the Durham District School Board. I just can't
okay,
do Peel because I work at Peel also. If I
okay,
were to give up my job at Peel, then I could assess those children at Peel.
okay, so if it's within the demographic, like if you can only do Toronto District School Board, you could do Durham kids or Durham parents, or you can do York Region or whatever, but you can't do Toronto because you're allocated to their schools.
Yeah, and that's if you're an employee of the school district.
Oh,
There's
that's if you're
psycho Yeah, so there's psychologists who don't work for a school and they don't have any issue with conflict of interest. It's
okay.
only the ones that are also working within a school. Within that school, you can't take those students.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that because, yeah, I was like, what? Because you know how long these waiting lists are, And if parents are willing to pay the money, but it shouldn't be a conflict of interest. But okay, I get it outside. I have to look for outside of wherever the child is asking for. Um, there's a question here. Makes sense, but also what would be the conflict? She said she missed something, so just explain the little conflict again.
Okay, so if I work, well, I work for the Peel District School Board, and I also have a private practice. So children at the Peel District School Board, I can assess them because essentially I would be taking away like service that they would get from the Peel District School Board and taking them to make money on my own. So that would be the conflict of interest. So I can't take any of the students that's within Peel, but I could work with other students at different district school boards because I'm not an employee of those school boards.
Yeah,
But
I
if I'm not working at a school, then I could test any child.
but I still don't see it. Like, I still don't see it as a conflict if you are doing, like, if it's a kid within the Toronto School Board and is on the waiting list, but the waiting list is taking so long, like, and you had do it outside of your practice, it's like you're taking that kid off the TDSB's waiting list and doing it same way. You're just not doing it within the TDSB time frame. So yeah, I don't feel like it's
Oh,
poaching. I think you're,
potentially it could be issues there because I could say, "Oh, I'm busy within the Peel District School Board and busy, quote unquote," and then only saying that because I want to take them away and do it for private practice. So you
but
could
if
run
you're doing
into
it
issues
after
like that.
hours, if you're doing it after hours, after school board hours,
Still there'll be an issue because I could essentially like not do anything at the Peel
and
District
just
School
do
Board
all of it.
and do all of them private practice.
Okay, if you put it like that, yeah, okay. But I still don't think that it should be a conflict of interest. I think that they should actually work with you guys to make it so it's not and be able to have more offers. You see what I mean? But okay. Second question is, can you explain the difference between psychoeducational testing and psychological testing?
So psychoeducational testing, the real purpose of that is to understand someone's learning profile. So in
Yes, Elliot,
those,
partnerships.
pardon me?
No, Ellie was just saying partnerships. You could put them out, and yes, that's what I think too, a partnership. So I was thinking more a partnership thing than more a poaching thing. But okay, we'll get back to that. So the difference between psychoeducational testing and psychological testing.
Yes, so psychoeducational testing, the purpose is for learning. Usually it's done to get accommodations in school. So you're looking at whether or not a person has like a learning disability or ADHD, any of the neurodevelopmental disorders. That's what we're assessing within a psychoeducational assessment. And a psychological assessment, that's more of the mental health. So anxiety, depression, personality assessments, those are within the psychological assessments.
So would like for the psychoeducation, can it be done as an adult? Can you an adult get one?
Yes, an
Okay.
adult can get one, yeah.
Okay, good.
Usually Usually adults who tend to get it is because they're going to school like university, getting their master's or getting their undergrad or doctorate degree. Those are people who usually end up doing the psychoeducational assessment. And then there's pieces of a psychoeducational assessment that you would do within an ADHD assessment as an adult. So we're looking at like cognitive and memory functioning in ADHD assessments as an adult. So that's partially a psychoeducational assessment as well.
And the psychological assessment, would that still cover ADHD if you have ADHD or if you have um, uh, other uh, other learning issues? Would that cover it too on the psycho
Well,
for
the
adults?
psychological assessments doesn't necessarily include like cognitive testing. So the
Okay.
psychoeducational assessments usually includes the cognitive testing. Psychological assessments um usually are like clinical interviews, ratings, forums and things like that to determine if the person has like some mental health issue.
Okay. I know I'm looking at the time and I know you've got to go, so I just want to get out. We'll get to question three and then we can see if we can wrap that up so you can get up. How do you approach working with clients, especially Black children and adolescents?
Um, if you could change it around that question a little bit, are you referring to like when it comes to the assessment piece? How do I
Yeah,
approach it?
yeah, just how in working with all the different kids that you do work with, do you
Hmm.
see any sort of specific things that you do differently or you have to do differently when it comes to black when you're
Oh,
working with black clients and black children and or black adolescents? That's what I really want to for the black
okay. So
focus
like,
thing.
is there a difference between how I approach working with Black students compared to other ethnic
Yeah.
groups?
Is there
Okay.
anything that specifically you think comes out in that you think is needed today, or you see that's needs to be focused on when you're doing your testing, or is it all the same?
Um, I don't necessarily think it's all the same. I find that our community is not necessarily they don't necessarily know about this service. So the psychoeducation that there still needs to be more psychoeducation done so parents could know and understand what these assessments are. There's a lot of stigma too still because parents in the Black community are fearful of a label and they're fearful that a label will hold their child back, and it's understandable fear because we already have things set up against our community. So you don't want to add anything else to make it even harder. So understanding what it means to have a diagnosis and what that opens up for you when you do have a diagnosis, especially within the school system, um, is what my Black parents need to understand. And I find that I have to do more education to share what that means, so they understand that it's not anything to be fearful of.
That's what I wanted to touch upon is like, do you find that most of your consultations or most of your, before you even get into your testing with Black families, that you have to like, when you do the psychoeducational, do you do with the parents? Like, are they involved in it or it's just a school board has a list and the parent signs off giving you permission, but the day of your the psych assessments, because you have to do a few sessions, are the parents involved in that or is it just you on the client? Just to give them an idea of what the process is as well.
Yeah. So the psychoeducation involves the parents too. So if from within the school board, it's a little bit different than private practice, but
Mhm.
essentially it includes the same elements where the parents are involved. You do one-to-one testing and things like that, but how it's approached is a little bit different. So at the school they have school team meetings where they talk about students who are struggling. Psychology is a part of the meeting, social work, speech are part of the meeting, and then at that time, if psychoeducational assessment is best for that child, they would recommend that. Parents are informed of what the school recommends. Parents give consent to do the psychoeducational assessment before I get involved. I speak to the parent directly to tell them more about the assessment, to give them so that they are informed of what they're saying yes to. And at that point, they could still say yes or no to the assessment. Then after that, I gather information from them, getting developmental history. They sometimes do rating forms looking at behavior functioning and attention functioning and things like that. So they would get rating forms, and that's how they're included in the assessment. And then for the student, I would do the one-to-one testing, looking at their cognitive functioning, academic functioning, and how they process information. And other information that I'm looking at too is like previous reports. So I review school reports and things like that, or I'll observe them in the classroom or talk to their teachers. Those are all elements of the assessment within the school board. Private practice, parents are usually they approach me for the assessment. And again, they're involved this in the same way, and the child is doing the similar one-to-one testing. The only thing that is missing is that I don't get to observe them within this in the school setting. So that part is not miss that part is missing in a psych in the private practice assessment.
Mhm.
But everything else is essentially the same.
And how long would the school, the psychoeducational piece within the school take, and how long does the your private practice one, the psychological testing take to be
It
completed?
it varies. I mean, the assessment itself, how much hours it takes, is essentially the same. But sometimes things are spread out to make it longer within like the month. So, for example, at the school, I may only get to see a child for maybe two school periods at a time, and I'm not always at the school because I'm at different schools. So I'm assigned four schools right now. Sorry, three schools right now. Sometimes you're assigned up to seven schools, so you're not always at the school every day. So with that schedule, you're only seeing the kid maybe once a week for maybe two periods. So then it's stretched out over like 4 to 6 weeks. In private practice, you could essentially finish the assessment within a week. I don't work that way in my private practice. I like to stretch it out within like a month of every other week. I might meet with them. And then I have time in between to review documents, score things, write the report, and things like that.
And psychological testing, is that just basis off of figuring out what sort of mental health disorder you might have, or is that trying to help you figure out what makes you tick in a sense?
So that's, I guess, essentially they both answer that question, like what makes you tick.
That's true.
But
One more on education. Yeah. Okay, good, good,
yeah. So the mental health one is the psychological assessments, and then
good.
the learning is on, and the neurodevelopmental disorders are within the psychoeducational assessments.
So let's say I'm a young person who thought like when they were younger that they had these things, but for some reason it got, slipped through the cracks, and now they're adulting, and they still feel like there's something off. This would be a psychological testing would be a good fit for that, or would it be a psychoeducational testing?
It depends on what their concerns are. So if
Okay.
their concern is like, oh, I'm having difficulty with learning, I find that reading is very hard, or I have difficulty with my attention, or I have difficulties with like social skills, then I would look at psychoeducational assessment. If their only concern is I have like anxiety, my anxiety is like crippling me where I can't go to work and now my work's being impacted, I would look at more of like a psychological assessment because now I'm assessing anxiety.
Okay, 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 good. Um, I think we only have a few minutes before you have to hop off. So let's stop here, and then we're going to have part two, people, because Fiana has to leave, and we wanted to do this for an hour so you guys can get your questions in. So this presents a great opportunity for part two for you to send your questions to Fiana or myself. DM us the questions that you would like her to answer in our part two. If you have any questions, if you watch the replay, because I will put this up on the YouTube channel. So if you see the replay and you have some questions that come to your mind that you'd like for Fiana to answer, you want to go to her page and look what she specializes in. Um, Thank you, Just Sage. Go and if you feel like you have those kinds of questions, then yeah, please send them to myself. Send them to me because she has enough stuff to look through. So send them to me. I'll gather the questions and I'll have them ready for our part two. So if there's anything else, Fiona, you want to let us know, let them know again how they can connect with you, how they can work with you. Oh, you know what I could ask quickly before you go off is price range. If you were due to do the psychoeducational or the psychological assessment outside of the school board, what would be the price range for
Yeah.
your services?
So a psychoeducational assessment ranges from like 3,500 to 4,200. And then a psychological assessment can range from like 2,000 to like $3,000.
Great. So you guys hear the prices. So if you guys are interested, if you know of anybody that is looking for that, and what age group do you specialize in, Fiona?
I work with children as young as 6 and adults before senior age.
Nice. Well, that's a big range. That's an incredible range. So, people, you have it here first. We will have a part two. If you are interested in asking questions or you have something that's come to you after you rewatch this or just as you see this, please DM me the questions and I will have them ready for her to answer on part two. We will reschedule part two. We'll have it for you guys soon. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your expertise. I can't wait for part two so we can dig into some more questions that I have here that I think for us, by us, we need to learn and we need to know so that you don't have to be spending so much time before you get started informing. So thank you so much for joining. Drive safe and we will see part two again. Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye, Fiona.
Bye.
Okay, so people, I'm just going to have to come and just tell you a little bit about the next. So part two. Part two is going to be where she's going to come on and she's going to express her expertise again. So if you have any questions, if there's anything that you missed when you rewatch this and you think like, oh, you know what? I did not understand this because we do a lot of jargon talking. So I didn't understand this. What does this meeting mean? What is this? Then please send send me a DM and I will collect the questions and I will definitely have it for part two. Thank you guys again. Convos with Kerry is going to be every Thursday. Next Thursday, look out for my end of the month Black Business Night. So you will have two Black-owned businesses coming on sharing their journey. So every last Thursday of the month on Convos with Kerry, I do a Black-owned business night. So if you are a Black-owned business and you would like to share your business journey with us, for us, by us, please DM me and I will book you in for the next coming months. So again, thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you for watching and I will see you next Thursday. Good night.